course. Big thank you for almost slaying the Bit Boss. Terminator's left with 1 health remaining after 47ness comes in with 3 quick yes. But of course, let's get into game. Spawning in the top left, we have the blue Protoss Team Liquid's MaNa.
In the bottom right, as the red Terran hits Liquid uThermal.
Now this is kind of cool because we don't get to see that many Terrans, what with Europe being what it is. uThermal, though, in the losers bracket does surprise me. I don't have the brackets open, but do you know who he played in the first round? Like, uThermal's a good freaking player.
Hero Marine.
He lost to Hero Marine. That, ooh. Well, first off, shout out to Hero Marine, but secondly, that was still a good matchup.
Hero Marine is more than just a one-trick guy, I guess, showing up in one tournament and doing really well. He's been doing well in almost every single tournament that he's been playing in. Well,
whether Hero Marine's rise to success has any bearing on where uThermal sits now, or maybe it's just uThermal's fault, I don't know how the games went, obviously. But it'll be interesting to see the match here. I've actually really liked uThermal's TVP for a while. He's had these weird fluctuations of which matchup is his best matchup, right? Like for a while it was versus Protoss, then it was versus Zerg, then like it's been all over the place. And frankly, he doesn't play in a lot of online cups anymore. We don't see him that often. He has streamed a little bit in recent days, but not enough to really say like, okay, I watched a bunch of hours uThermal and I know exactly where he's at. So this will be a really, really neat matchup for me, because MaNa, on the other hand, has played in a lot of things and weekly cups and streams rather frequently. So I think it's a lot easier to say that I've got more faith in MaNa based on what we've seen, but on his prowess, experience, and just who he is, I got some faith in uThermal too.
Yeah, it's a hard match to call, and it is only a best of 3, so it could be decided even fairly quickly. uThermal can be an aggressive guy, and so can MaNa, especially versus Terran. He has definitely shown some of the pylon rushes. In fact, he was having quite the streak of cheeses a couple months ago. Don't know really where he sits right now in the matchup, but we do know that uThermal is still going to be that type of guy that can proxy when frustrated, especially. And he is looking, they're both looking for each other's proxies, because they both know this.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more expected and typical someone like MaNa might do it, but I feel like uThermal, he's the type of guy who tends to proxy in like retaliation, not necessarily as an opener like someone's like, say, Jockshi might. But regardless, gets up here with the Reaper, sees the Stargate finishing in base, and that's all the information he needs, frankly.
Yeah, he's gonna bother letting that Reaper live. Even though that Stargate's usually just kind of all you need to see. You could get back in there, maybe kill the 3rd building probe, or die to an adept to chase you. You know.
Yes.
Yeah. That happens. I mean, it actually is. I'm surprised, I suppose, when more Protoss don't chase, because of course the idea that Terran has something immediately following that Reaper up is pretty low, you know, especially after you scouted so thoroughly proxies. Because one thing MaNa hasn't scouted is MaNa's or uThermal's actual base, but he scouted so thoroughly with the probe, it's not like he really should not be expecting a Cyclone to pop up and kill a wandering adept.
Yeah. Well, the Oracle's going to be met with a Viking on the other side of the field, and probably won't get away with much with the Marines to buy some time beforehand. It's going to be on uThermal to be out of position for this, really, and yeah, there's even a Widow Mine hidden in there too.
Yeah, I think he's maybe hoping that MaNa thinks he's out of position. Like, oh, my Marines are off to the right side so much.
Yeah.
But MaNa just
oh
goes,
no, don't kill me.
Is there a Widow Mine up? It's just a Viking up here, so... I mean, 2 Vikings. Oh,
Dos Vikingos.
That's surprising. Especially since, I mean, he's building a 3rd one, and this is off a, like, non-reactored starport.
So, it's good to know that restarting the game fixes the middle mouse bug. It's gonna be really annoying having to restart the game after every match.
Imagine what a player feels like. You know, Suit's been quite vocal about that problem.
It sucks because I know that before, what was the last big event? Shanghai? I think it was Shanghai. I had brought it up with some folks at Blizzard, and they said their design team was looking into it. So it's kind of like, well, what about it? Like, I can't imagine this is that big of a problem to fix. Like,
I imagine it really is, and this is just pure conjecture. Like, I have no idea how programming even works, but like I feel like it's actually a matter of finding what is causing the problem. Like they would know how to fix it, but they need to find exactly what's happening. Because I know whenever I send like a formal email, it's always like, well, like try and tell us exactly what happens and send us screenshots of exactly what page you're on, what page you were going up to that point. And I'm like, I don't remember. Yeah, these Vikings, they were made in a greater count than usual, but they are going to contribute to this tank push that is very popular on Abyssal, and MaNa was totally anticipating this.
Yeah, I love the extra Vikings to deal with the Phoenix. They don't get to just rush in and pick up the tank like they normally would, but that being said, they're still going to win out this fight by the looks of it, unless the Widowmine gets a good pop-off here, and the Marines focus down the Phoenix, so 3 Vikings still stand, and that second tank is good to go, but a big stasis trap catches all of the Marines.
Oh, that was so perfect. Gosh, I mean, MaNa was going to have a good one even before that fight occurred. As far as he didn't let that take care of it, but okay, whether it's before or after the fight, that's a lot of Marines. It takes out the tanks. He could just leave, and the Marines would have to leave too.
If that stasis trap was not there, if that didn't go off the way it did, I think uThermal was like on its way to snowball through this, but that was phenomenal. I've also, we've never seen a Terran player go 3 Vikings with this push, and I'm amazed at how crazy, like black and white of a difference it made that engagement.
I think it was a really good response to the Stargate opener. You know, if you saw that it was a Toilet Council opener or anything else really, then maybe you don't build that many Vikings. You build 1 to maybe scare away the mothership core, and that's kind of it. But the Phoenixes, you know, they're going to have a tough time dealing with the Vikings, and they won't be as obligated to pick up the tanks because they might just die for it. It was eventually pushed back, and a lot with the help of the stasis trap. MaNa was on 3 bases, so good economy, so like there's still potential even without the stasis trap. He'd eventually kind of wear through it, but it was a lot easier with the Oracle's help.
Oh no, the people from DreamHack, or whoever's running the DreamHack Twitter, doesn't know how to do proper Twitch channel tagging. Because shout out to them for tweeting about the matchup, but they linked to vodcast and not not like, hey, this is live now.
It did?
Yeah, go to their tweet. It says vodcast on it.
The tweet that you retweeted?
Yeah.
I click on it and it literally takes me to the live one right now.
Yeah, but it says vodcast on it. Because they didn't put the question mark.
It doesn't say
Really?
vodcast for me. Yeah.
On the tweet itself, you don't see BaseTradeTV --Twitch vodcast twitch.tv.
No. I mean, it might be a TweetDeck thing, but even like when I like click on it and expand the tweet and everything, like it doesn't show it.
I'm looking on my phone, so maybe it is a TweetDeck thing.
TweetDeck is sometimes useful. It's pretty not useful at other times though. Now it won't show me polls. It used to let me vote in them, but now it just won't show me them. It's like, okay, whatever. That's cool.
Things still harassing around the base. Just quick note about Twitter, by the way, guys. If you're ever going to link somebody's stream, you want to make sure that it doesn't get stuck in some weird cache. Always put a question mark at the end of the URL and then just type like literally anything after it. So like twitch.tv/BaseTradeTV/?butts123. And always link whatever the current title of the stream is and not a cached version of it. The more you know. Anyways, MaNa coming in for an attack now. This is where another factory was built. A bunker is down. Good tank shots. Amazing tank shots, actually, to start the engagement. SCVs are pulled. The charge loads are almost gone. And I think uThermal should be able to hold this.
You know, if he had Stim, I think MaNa just made a huge mistake. Even without Stim, it looks like he made a huge mistake.
Yeah, I mean, the positioning here is working out really well. The SCVs were pulled, but only 5 died. This was a great hold for uThermal, considering he had very little to no, like, tools to work with there. Like you said, Stim, common shields, it all just finished as the fight was already over.
Yeah. Well, I think a big contributor is not just how many tanks there were, but also that MaNa had to wrap around a factory through a choke that added a lot of splash damage, and it added, like, you know, another tank volley before his units even started connecting with anything. And now MaNa's in trouble. You know, his 4th base a lot later. uThermal already setting up a planetary here. He won't be able to break the army and a planetary.
I gotta say, too, part of this for me, like, I'm still just, like, astounded how good the positioning for uThermal was for that. Like, I don't know how, but it almost felt like he baited MaNa to come into the heart of a bunch of tanks. And you're like, yes, this is exactly where I want you. Yeah. And recovering from that for MaNa is either a lot of passive play or really good harass. And unfortunately, despite this gateway and all these units up here, I don't think there's any option for that harass. There's still tanks in a great position. Should he get past these, there's that planetary.
You know, we haven't cast uThermal in a while. He just hasn't been playing in online cups, and we've been doing a lot more Korean cups than European. So I kind of forgot that he was experimenting with this, but he already was producing 2 tanks at a time. That's why he had 5 or maybe even 6 for that fight. And he's adding on a 3rd factory. He's going factory heavy, tank heavy versus Protoss.
I don't even. Oh, bit of a pause. I don't even mind the idea of the extra factories though, and not because of tanks necessarily, but this gives them the option of building, like say, widow mines in a clutch situation or otherwise. But I love the way he's incorporating these extra units. I think tanks do eventually kind of cap off, and once there's like a bunch of immortals and like storms clear out the marines, it's kind of easier to deal with them, especially if Phoenix are picking them up on top of all that. But if you've got so many tanks that not all of them can be picked up and not all of them can be bussed by like 3 immortals, then the logic here is just like they're going to eventually power through. Like average army of Terran here versus Protoss, you're probably gonna see like what, 5 tanks? If uThermal's coming in with like 11 or 12, how's MaNa gonna deal with that when he's only gonna be used to dealing with like 3 or 5?
Now I did say that uThermal's done this before, but I'm still wondering if this is a style resulting from what ended up being a failed push. It took a decent bit of army with it, so I don't want to call it failed, but it was pushed back. And it felt like made him feel he had to play defensive because his stim, combat shields, upgrades were all so late. Or this is actually how I wanted to play Abyssal Reef. Either way, I think the style is what's really thrown off MaNa here, because to your point, like you're right, like that many tanks, no matter what you're going for, you're just not expecting it. Usually Charge Lot Immortal Phoenix is like a perfect counter to a lot of tanks. But in this case, it's just something that I wasn't expected, and it was defensive, so it was using SimCity and pathing against the Protoss.
This turret setup's hilarious to look at, by the way. But 2 Zealots get in and get to the mineral lines. While this goes on, though, uThermal's trying to bait a fight elsewhere. And I say beta fight because he really doesn't want to get stormed on those Marines, and secondly, he wants to drive everything to those tanks. And this is such a phenomenal amount of tanks. I said 12, guys. We're on 13, and they're about to have +2 weapon upgrades. Even if you're shooting non-armored units, 44 damage a shot coming from 13 tanks.
Well, the problem with attacking into the Protoss army, though, is that concaves are actually the worst enemy of tanks. The tanks on the high ground providing a lot there. Storm's even eating a little bit into his own charge lots, but that's where MaNa is going to take the more effective engagements as uThermal tries to push forward into open areas, where Abyssal doesn't have a lot of. He basically found the one open area there and is going to try a different pathway.
I think there's some really cool position he can take down here. I don't know about specifically this spot, right? Because this has Zealots coming out of the bush, no problem. But I was thinking more like down here, he could really deny all this mining and put pressure onto the Nexus if he didn't tear those rocks down. But looks like I think for uThermal, he wants to get up to right here and try and get positioning on 2 ramps. But that creates another concave, so I don't know. Like, his positioning here, his decision-making, I should say, for position here is making me question what his motives are. Whether he's just trying to kill a base or whether he wants to get, like, zoning on the army. So here we go. MaNa comes in from the top side, drops the Immortals and the Storms on top of the tanks.
Oh, cool idea. Kind of forgot about. I mean, this is actually Broodwar attacks, isn't it? Like dropping units on top of the tanks is a very effective way to deal with them, but the concave doesn't.
While this cleans up the tanks, the Marines just stutter over there. They kill some drone probes. They're going to be able to snipe off the Nexus, pick up, and get out of there because there's no stalkers here to chase.
Yeah, the Phoenixes have died, I guess. Some of them, one of them maybe, like coming over.
Ooh,
a recall at the main base.
Big recall
nice
too.
MaNa making the best out of a pretty bad scenario by dealing with that tank army, but uThermal on 5 bases, now cutting MaNa down to 4, still has the army supply lead.
I like this choice to abandon the Marines and get the medevacs out, or at least try to. Medevacs are not something you want to have to spend more gas and money on when you're producing 3 tanks at a time. But rip. 1 medevac with 4 health. You tell the tale of what happened here.
Alright, well, MaNa... so now that he's kind of figured out a way to deal with the tanks, and I think the drops on top of them was really cool, but also just kind of waiting for uThermal to come to him, should not mind the supply difference as much. 30 is still scary, don't get me wrong, but it's something that I think he's going to be better off with if he's defensive. But it is going to make me question, like, well, then how do you break uThermal? Because eventually, you know, do you really want to play a 20-minute game? Like, who's going to beat who first? I think you might just have to respond to this as if it was Mass Liberator. You know, like they're both sieged units that are going to be worse as they get into concavable positions. And the response to Liberator is usually Tempests. Is Mass Tanks the same thing?
You know, it's an interesting dynamic to compare the two like that, and I really like it, but I honestly don't know.
I can't.
Oh, big pick up of that War Prism, but the storm hits so many of the Marines!
Well, is that going to be enough? The tanks are not being touched, and I think the War Prism was hoping to continue on a little bit farther.
Yeah, quadruple the army supply.
Yeah, now down 60 and losing a lot of those Archons and Immortals too. That might just be the nail in the coffin.
That was kind of cool though, because like he did win out in the top fight, MaNa that is, but he lost out so badly on the lower half. Storms are going to kill a lot of Marines, sure, but those tanks don't really mind so much. And now they've got zoning to keep those Templar out. There's like a small gap up here to the north where those could possibly run through.
Is it my Storm's feedback or something? Ah.
Oh, it feels bad, man.
Yeah.
Well, base is probably going to get sniped. +3 are done. It's actually crazy how much uThermal's outclassing MaNa's upgrades, by the way. MaNa's on like 3-1-1. uThermal's on like 3-3, almost 3 across the board. GG. Or the G, as it was.
Regular G.
Alright, well I gotta restart my game, and I actually have to go fix a couple other things that are going on here, guys. So, while we normally wouldn't inject a commercial break here just yet, we're going to just, because they're going to take a couple minutes. So, see you guys here in 2. Alright, we're going to load back into game. It's map number 2. As we load into Ascension to Ire. Spawning here in the lower right side, we've got the Blue Protoss, Team Liquid's MaNa.
In the top left, with a very interesting style, it's the Red Terran uThermal.
I love that he does that, though, because I feel like there's ups and downs to uThermal, right? The up is if you don't cast him for a while and then you get to see him, or you don't watch him be cast for a while and get to see him, he's always playing something a little bit different and usually a little unique to him. I think of always back to the days when like he couldn't figure out how to beat Ultras and he's fighting against Nerdshot. He's throwing everything he could at him, doing unsieged tank run bys and things like that, right? So he's always been one to think outside the box of what is normal. The downside, though, is that you don't get to see him often enough to follow him through this, like, what led to him eventually getting tanked so heavily. Like, was this a series of ladder games, or is this the first time he's ever trying it here and now? Like, we don't know because there's no story to follow with him never participating in much else.
Yeah, very rarely. I mean, the last time we cast him must have been maybe, like, even a month ago. Like, pretty long. So, I do remember he tried it once or twice, and I don't remember the results of it, actually, whether he won or lost, or, you know, how much he's perfected it, I'm not sure, but he was one of the guys that I really liked watching in TVZ, speaking of, like, his game versus Nerdshot and Unsieged tank run buys. I think that's when he was playing mech, but, you know, obviously everything's switched back to bio for most people.
Did you see the bet thing with him and Beastie Cutie, by the way?
No.
So Beastie Cutie and him played like some sub-war games, and like if he lost, he had to play mech for 3 days on stream.
Well, even without playing mech, he still was one of the only Terrans that was playing mass tanks against Ultras, which I am still like big on, but I obviously realize it has a lot of weaknesses and there's a reason not to do it, but I'm excited when someone does try. Yeah. So I'm also excited to see that uThermal is going like 3 tank production versus Protoss. MaNa is going for a proxy Stargate.
This is going to be a huge scout with the SCV, by the way. Not the fact that he sees the Nexus, but when he comes to the main, there's no second pylon. This doesn't need to say where the proxy is. He just needs to know that there is, in fact, a proxy.
Right. Now, did he must have known something just with all the Nexus? No?
Yeah, he actually didn't go back to the other side to check.
Yeah, I think he might have just been okay with what he thinks is a normal opener. Which is a little... his SCV is being kind of suspicious, but he went for a third CC, so it's not like he's going to be planting down a starport.
Yeah, this is actually really concerning for me, because I don't know if he'll have enough units out for this. One, like, he may just have to suck up losses from the first Oracle and hope that the faster third CC outproduces the damage taken.
Well, that's the good news, is that it will. If this is paired up with a Depths, though, that's why I think it's a bit too much, because that's like you lifting your natural command center. That's, you know, if you let them into the main, that could be like game-ending damage.
Well, if he was hoping to throw down a proxy, he's not going to get a chance to. He's just going to have to scout with that SCV. Back at home, though, Oh, this is going to sting real bad. Catching this Adept early on is going to be really helpful, of course. Taking out some of the fuel before it starts, but here comes that Oracle. And right now, you guys, you need 6 Marines. No less.
Right. This is going to be paired with the Adepts. This might... If there is a proxy or a closer proxy pylon that was warping in even one Adept at a time...
He's dropped another one of the fresh mules down here, too.
That sucks. Then he could probably force a lift off of this natural for at least an extended period of time. Oh, he lets the Adepts in. Oh, okay, well, that wasn't supposed to happen.
No. He catches one of the Adepts. That Oracle out of energy is the only reason it stopped the slaughter. It's on 11 kills, by the way.
Another Oracle is coming up here, and there's still only 3 Marines. He can't make enough Marines. He's also running out of minerals from all this, pulling. He's trying to desperately get a missile turret, but he's going to lose more SCs when that happens.
If that even happens, this might be GG. Yeah.
Man, I feel like if the Adept had been in there, he might have just barely been able to hold. But of course, with proxy Oracle production, maybe that's in question too.
Well, that does tie things up 1-1. So we're going to see an ace match, which will be nice. Keep in mind, guys, the losers bracket is all best of 3s, and we've been told we're allowed to cast until about the round of 4. So we've got approximately 3 best of 3s total, and this is the first one. I guess, I don't know who... We'll have to wait for the winners. Oh, I suppose there's going to be terrible downtime after this, right? Because we got to wait for the winners matches to drop down before we can do the next round.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have stall outs every so often.
Okay.
Being the losers bracket.
Well, we'll address the stall outs when we get there. Interloper's coming up next. I do have a new map intro for this one. I did release it on YouTube, so some of you may have already seen it. This is like a super callback to one of our casts, but also like a nostalgia trip for those who played this back in the day. But we'll see you guys here in a sec. A pirate I was meant to be, trim the sails and roam the sea. All right, we're back in action. It's game number 3. You're still watching the WCS Montreal Qualifiers for 2017. Rifkin and Zomgrib coming at you, and spawning here in the top left. It's the blue Protoss from Team Liquid, MaNa.
In the bottom right, as the red Terran, he is Liquid Thermi.
I forgot to restart again, so middle mouse button's back. Quick mention to you guys, if you're enjoying the show so far, if you want to keep seeing more awesome StarCraft action, do us a favor, hit the follow button. It's free, it doesn't cost you a thing. And it ensures that you know when we go live with other casts, because we do cast quite a bit, although I will admit this month's been a little bit slow, generally speaking, but we do want you guys to be joining us for all our StarCraft casts. But speaking of free things, this is that time for that quick Twitch Prime bump, guys. A lot of you might not know, but your Twitch Prime subs do not automatically renew. Each month, you do have to manually reapply it. On top of this as well, some of you guys might not realize you have a free sub that you can give out every single month. If you use Amazon Prime on the regular, then you already have Twitch Prime, whether you realize that or not. You connect the two over on twitchprime.com, and in doing so, will allow you to subscribe to streamers once a month for free, which is awesome, but on top of that, give you a lot of free cool codes. I think this month they're giving away like a lot of Overwatch loot boxes and Heroes of the Storm stuff. It's like Blizzard Central over there, but claim your free loot, consider subscribing to us, and it won't cost you a thing.
At this point in time, Amazon Prime seems to be the best yearly subscription you can have. I honestly thought it would be more expensive when I first joined up for it, and that was before it paired up with Twitch, so pretty worthwhile if you got the cash. So this is going to be another proxy. What really made that last game so potent, though, for MaNa's proxy was the fact that uThermal went for a 3cc build. That is not going to give you a factory, and it's going to give you delayed barracks production, which is the only thing you're going to be able to have. So you really need to scout that it's an Oracle proxy. If he had, that's Marines on the high grounds. Maybe don't even bother trying to take the natural, just that it turns an orbital, that's it. And also probably a faster engineering bay, which he is getting really quickly here. and he scouts immediately the proxy without any knowledge of the main base. He just knew where MaNa was going to put it, I guess. So this should be a great counter for uThermal. He's even anticipating a mothership core rush, which I don't think MaNa's doing. But in protecting against the pylon rush, he's also protecting against the adepts that can run in and complicate things. Because MaNa's putting down another proxy pylon. Like, he wants to have that aggressive opportunity, even if it is only just 1 or 2 adepts at a time. The Reaper would love to scout it too, because there are builds and they're very old, they're not very popular, but you get a couple extra gateways and you don't really get that strong of an economy, and you just push the front of a Terran player who's like, what the hell are you doing? So he would have liked to scout that. He gets trapped though.
That was a good catch on the Reaper too. Surprise, surprise. Sorry guys, a little bit unresponsive here because I just got some really cool news. We have some codes for the war chest to give away.
Ooh.
And like this is like a full unlock for the war chest too, not like any like, oh, you just get Zerg or something like that. So figure how to give one of these out before the end of stream today.
Very cool. So Oracle is hardcore denied, even a missile turret. Like that's technically, I think, a bit of an over defense, but it is the safest defense possible. Like absolutely no damage taken, so probably worth. You know, the Wood of Mine could have been in the main base and everything else the natural, like that type of thing, but now you're really protected. Oh, MaNa is adding on the gateway, but he's also proxying a robo, so it was the added gateway production like I was talking about that, you know, uThermal would have loved to have scouted, but he didn't get that far into the main base, and he doesn't see the other proxy location. By being out of position like this, by not having the SCVs ready to auto-repair that bunker, MaNa could still win this game. Accidentally. Tags. Oh wait, he tagged some of the army. Okay. It's like, mostly tagged the rocks. A single Marine is going to go out and scout. I don't know when's the last time he scouted the 3rd base, but that is another... Oh, that's what's going to try and scout. Oh, it is so close to scouting the army. Oh, no.
Oh, I still didn't see anything. Okay, there we go. Sees the gateway now, but it might be a little too late. Sees the robo, too. Oh, no. The SCVs are going to get pulled. The tanks on the low ground, too. Vikings just need to land and help. Every bit counts, but that's the fullest surround of SCVs I've ever seen on a bunker.
Yeah, he actually just gave up trying to bust down the bunker, went for the tank instead. Probably a better move, but a second tank is already out, and uThermal might still just hold. This is not looking great for MaNa. I don't even think that one Immortal has its barrier back up. There's a Wood of Mine that's going to pop off on something, has a bit of splash damage. It's going to try and do some fancy footwork with the Warp Prism, try and draw everything out of position, but there's 3 Vikings. This is a huge risk. Oh, the Wood of Mine!
Oh, it takes out the Warp Prism, but yeah, the Immortals already got where they needed to go.
That is true, but that was also much faster reinforcements, which I think he would need to bust this. Without the reinforcements, I don't think he will. The Immortals might still be in the main base, but the front is not broken. The army isn't broken. Someone respond to this.
Chasing the Immortal back best he can. Does finally take it out, but I don't know how I feel about it. It's a really weird situation. MaNa is in some trouble in terms of the fact they didn't break uThermal, but uThermal's also not like, he's not retained tanks, he doesn't have medevacs, there's no like immediate response to this either, so we can't really punish MaNa for doing this. I mean, look at how low all these Marines are, right? Like, no stim, no combat shields.
Yeah, certainly. MaNa, you know, could have a macro game from here because a lot of tech-related things are delayed for uThermal, but it is kind of a consolation prize. It's not really what he was hoping from this. And uThermal, you know, last game he also had pretty delayed stim and combat shields, but he played that very defensive tank game, and it worked out well for him. And that's when MaNa had a much faster 3rd and a much greater economy for... Or 2 games ago, sorry. The last game was so quick. I hope uThermal recognizes that is something he's missing. Okay, he does. Adding on the extra barracks production. He'll get around to it eventually.
Well, this game is certainly anything but normal with the way it's gone thus far. And I just like, I don't know, like timings are thrown off all over the place, right? Like uThermal's not going to have upgrades, like all his upgrades, excuse me, at like an appropriate time that you would normally expect to see. MaNa's really important productions out here, but he does have a third base coming at home, so I don't know what to make of the situation. I love it though.
Right? It is a weird game. Proxy into another proxy into what could definitely be deemed an all-in, but doesn't really do direct economic damage. It heavily delays any counter pressure from uThermal. You know, I guess technically uThermal could try and counter with a tank push, but because Immortals are already on the front line, that seems like a bad idea. I don't think he'll do it. So really, this gives MaNa a huge opportunity to play very greedy back at home. I mean, I'm not sure how greedy he would want to play, because there is still a large army. It's just slow and unupgraded. But imagine if he did try and play the strengths here and went for even like a 4th base or something extreme like that. Super fast tech, double robo, like I don't know. He would probably be able to get away with it. Stim is a very long upgrade, and that's 9% of the time what the Terran's gonna be waiting for. Helps him figure that down.
Teamwork.
Yeah. Revelation. This is like if the Revelation wasn't cast, if he, there wasn't observers, and obviously there's going to be observers with the robo there. Maybe uThermal does try and get across the map, but I just think it's really dangerous to do as a tank-based army. He's got to wait for that stim, and MaNa is going to be able to, he's going to know that. So he's not really playing too greedy, but he did saturate his 3rd base, get his own upgrades, and is on his way to a Temple of Archives. But he didn't take his gases, and I feel like that's where he's going to really find the power again, is in those storms. So I'm surprised he hasn't taken his 3rd base gases yet.
Actually, yeah, I don't know. MaNa's army composition doesn't seem like it's too storm dependent right now, but it would be really good to have.
I mean, if he's looking to break uThermal, it's possible. This is still a choke. But once the choke is gotten past, I suppose there's a concave available on the tanks. And if he breaks down the rocks to the right side, there could be like a back attack even. Looks like he's just warping in from the proxy gateway, though. I think if uThermal had like supply depots covering the rest of that choke, there's just no way that MaNa pushes in. But it looks like MaNa is not super keen on it anyway. And he does add those gases, as well as Research Storm.
Well, it's good to finally remove that pylon, if nothing else. And killing the robo is obviously great. Killing the gateway's better, but just stopping warp-ins is kind of the bare minimum. Now he knows there's only really one angle of attack. I mean, the rocks are down, I know, but like there's only one angle of attack he has to worry about.
Oh, I thought MaNa was gonna go in. And uThermal to send off like a large portion of his marine force.
Yeah, that fodder is actually very important. Well, tanks are great, and there's a lot of them. Oh, he's gonna see us with the command center.
Yeah, but the observer's going to see the push out, which I think is more important. The tanks on siege, the lack of marines here, missile turret would have been very helpful here. Too.
I love that he picks them up to shuffle them backwards. That's such a smart move.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. His marines are just trying to get back here, but just by stimming once to get back, the storms blanket them. Doesn't really have that many. Again, the gas wasn't that high to begin with, though he's banking some now.
If those tanks were where they were before this fight began, this would go so well for uThermal, but the Marines are starting to clean some of it up. The SCV pull is going to be costly, and he's almost lost that command center. This looks like MaNa wants to take that out as the last hurrah here, but this was some really good damage out of MaNa. He punishes uThermal economically, he shuts down a 4th base. All these things are great, but it does come at a cost, and that was his whole army given away, right? Minus 4 or 5 stalkers. So if uThermal counterattacks right now with 2-2 finishing up, this might just be the sickest counter timing.
Yeah, I think what really cost him most of the army so quickly was being all types of bulked up with those adepts against the tanks that were firing. They survived. They're still alive, and they would grow in counts if he was producing from them. Of course, a little strapped for cash right now. Time buying, definitely a necessity for MaNa, but it's only going to buy so much. His 4th base is only just now really coming down here, so even more time buying needed for those extra storms, for the extra adept warp-ins. Oh, that should be a cancel.
The tank position here is a good way to cut off anything that would come to attack. The Adepts on top of the tanks. If those take those out first, yeah, the Marines have to come back and make sure this doesn't happen. Looks like the Adepts are dealt with pretty handily. There's just no supply for MaNa. uThermal. Yeah, way too much to handle. GG. See the Terran advance a little bit further here at the brackets.
Yeah. I think only 2 Terrans.
Just Hero Marine and
Yeah.
uThermal, I believe. Also, I'm not sure when. We got a $5 donation. Oh, from Laser during that last game. Laser SCQ. Thank you very much. There's a bit of SC2 support for you. BitBoss powers for me. Flies away. You know what I'm going to do actually during the break? We currently have it turned on so like resubscribers deal damage to the boss. I'm going to turn that off. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to give away 1 code just like through a straight up raffle that anybody can compete in. Followers, streamer, or subscribers, no benefits. Just anybody in the channel will have an equal chance to win a war chest code. But what we'll do is we'll have a second war chest code as boss loot today for whoever is the bit boss at the end of stream. So we'll change that stuff up. We'll go to a break, and it does look like it'll be a little bit of time before we have another match, guys. I can't give you an estimate of when and how long, but we do have to wait for players from the winners bracket to trickle down. So we'll see you guys here shortly.